Here we are, folks. This is the final round for these two players in Group C, who many people think, or what many people have been calling the Group of Death. We've got MbL. Now, MbL is in a much better position than Dogao, but two things can happen. He can either go to the playoffs and get to second place, or he will fall into fourth place, still be platinum next season, but not move on past that. Dogao is already out, but that might mean that Dogao has a lot less pressure on himself here. So Dogao's in the north playing as the Huns. And then we got Malay for MbL, and they are, yet again, very, very close here, Colin.
Yeah, and it seems fairly even in terms of positioning. Golds are kind of on the front and exposed for both players. Some nasty hills in front of Dogao's base.
Yep.
We know how MbL likes to come forward with that siege at some point in the game. You never know quite sure when it's going to come in, after some TCs, before TCs. But yeah, having any exposed resource when MbL's your opponent is always very risky.
Yeah, and this change is somewhat recent. I've talked about it the last 2 weeks. We fixed cross TC positions so it would avoid a situation where one player would have a super wallable map and the other player would not. Sometimes you would have someone, in just a much better position. So essentially, the players' TC locations to the ponds should be the same. And what that ends up meaning is you can have players very close together just because there's only so many spaces they can spawn. So Dogao's got the nice backwood, but yeah, the gold and the stones on the front could be a problem. And then MbL's got nice backwood and same deal. So they gotta find this. And MbL's starting to scout early, and he's not going the right direction right now.
I like that he's taking the early initiative. Knowing MbL, this could be to try to lame early as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is good, especially if he wants early pressure with the Malay. He could go for a 2 militia drush, and once he gets to feudal age, he'll have that extra armor on those militia. I don't know if that's really MbL style, but it's always a possibility. Malay have a few opportunities to do some early damage.
Yeah, Malay usually, that's the civilization who wants to wall a little bit more. Huns are going to want that army activity more than anything. Another tiny thing that could have happened here, it doesn't look like it will happen, but you see where MbL is going to dock now. There's a very good chance that Dogao could have also gone that direction. And their starting docks could have been in the same area.
I think it just came down to where Dogao sent his sheep to scout first. He scouted the pawn at the top side first, and he's like, okay, that's the pawn for me.
Yeah. I also think, if you look at it, MbL has actually gone to the pawn that's further away from him. Now, that just comes down to scouting, as you said, but I'm a little surprised he's gone that direction. I guess he's somewhat in the middle there. Scout's still actively moving around for MbL, but one thing I didn't say is, like, even when MbL has had a good season, he just kept bringing up how he got relegated one time, and he was so scared that he was going to get relegated again. So he's safe from that. I just wonder what the pressures are like now, because he needs to win to go playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to actually find Dogao's sheep here. Dogao's pushed in all of his deer, so that's the one thing that MbL's kind of losing out on by not pushing and scouting. I mean, he's scouted most of the map. He must know where Dogao is now.
Yeah.
He's just going to play it safe, make sure he doesn't lose the scout to the TC, go along the wood lines along the edge of the map until he finds Dogao's position. Might even be checking for a dock right now on his same pond.
Yeah, I guess how valuable MbL's scouting intel may come down to how quickly Dogao finds him. Because if Dogao just finds MbL right away, it's like, okay, Dogao's fine. But if he goes the wrong direction at this point, things could be tricky. And he's definitely thinking about those 2 sheep, by the way. He's like, I should have 2 more somewhere. Let me look for them. But he pushed in all of his deer, and this is tourney time, Dogao. Like, you're not going to have those just as freebies. And MbL knows where he is. MbL can also immediately assume that the dock has to be in the north for Dogao, because he didn't see the dock on this pond. So this is good for MbL.
Yeah, and I like these walls here. He sees the 2 wood lines that are already present. I mean, if MbL is definitely known as a waller among the community, and he's showing it off here, he just has to make sure his scout stays around this villager. It is an unloomed villager at the moment, loom halfway in at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know if my voice cut out there. I think my internet went down for half a second, so I think we're all good.
Yeah, it's good on my end.
Okay, cool. Well, so from Dogao's perspective, this could have been a better season for you, and I think what we're gonna see him take some risks today because he'll feel he has to, and because, oh man, as MbL misplaces the gate, he misplaces the gate, and Dogao's gonna walk through. But anyways, to finish my point, I think he'll take some risks. I think he'll be okay with lacking some scouting intel. He's gonna go for extremes, and he probably knows if MbL's walling that this is where MbL is gonna be fishing right now.
Yeah. Going back to your point about Dogao trying some things out today, I did see he had Kumans in the draft, and I don't exactly know where he might play that. I was thinking maybe on evacuation, which I don't think we've seen yet, but I'm very excited to see that as a possibility.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. I forget some of the other maps. We'll have more time to talk about that, but MbL, just priority number one is do not allow the opponent to dock your pond here. And things got a little messy there. Both scouts are weak, but he will get the walls down. His pond will be safe. At home, he's got a barracks and spearman coming out. And Dogao is the same, but Dogao also has the stable. So Dogao will be a bit more aggressive here.
Yeah, this looks like it's the MbL special right now. Just make a ton of spears. I'm guessing a range will follow up, but he might just prioritize a range.
Yep, and maybe the other thing about MbL here is he's probably going to be scared about the Huns, and that the Huns want to play open and aggressive. This is where Huns save all that wood, so not many civs are going to go stable and archer range opening like this. And so that, especially with the spearman going down to the TC, that's going to strike some fear into MbL right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good scouting. Being able to use those spearmen as a scout when your own scout is weak and might be a bit exposed. But Dogao's being very sneaky with these scouts on the left side, wrapping them around where MbL hasn't walled yet.
What's kind of crazy is MbL at maybe a couple minutes ago sent a villager to the west. And he is a dock there. He clearly wasn't paying too close attention to it. The villager didn't dock right next to a shorefish, but who cares? He's got fishing ships coming out there, so that's pretty big.
Yeah, both the Malay faster up bonus plus having this extra fishing ship out, giving him a nice eco boost at the moment. He just has to survive against this pressure that Dogao's sending his way.
Yeah, MbL loves to go forward spears, but 2 of those spears now are 1 hit away from death. So that hasn't necessarily worked out. I guess it's good that he saved them. And you can see a little bit that it's kind of shaky and nervous for MbL. But this is also the Malay, right? They're at their weakest at this stage. And if they defend, that's where they become one of the best civs in the game.
MbL has a villager that's been hanging out in the middle of the map, now going to the north, I think trying to wrap around to Dogao's pond at the north side. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as it moves around.
Yeah, and that's not something Dogao is going to prioritize at all. Like, MbL, it's kind of interesting, too, because MbL's not on gold. So if he wants to go forward dock, he can only make 1 fire. But Dogao is clearly going all in on land. He's happy with that 1 pond. And I like this. I don't know if it will work, but this is exactly what the Huns need to do on this map.
Yeah, I think so. And he's thinking about a blacksmith so he can get fletching or at least armor for his skirms. But might be a little bit too late. Might be just able to reposition that blacksmith a little bit safer position. And he's sending that villager back to the center of the map until he can figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, that could honestly have just been a select all idols. Like, he just sent a bunch of vills to gold. You're not that used to it happening at a high level and being so obvious, but I think maybe he selected all of his idols, sent them to gold, and maybe he'll realize that villager has wandered home when it's a little too late here. But panic time for MbL. He's holding on. He's got 9 fishing ships. This is good for him. But Dogao is close to potentially pouncing. Having said that, Dogao's been more patient than I was expecting. Maybe respecting MbL's defense a little too much.
Yeah, that definitely seems like the case. Has found that villager stuck in between the mill and the houses and the berries. But it does feel like there's potential here for Dogao to do more damage than he's getting at the moment.
Yeah, it's so tough against MbL because you take 1 bad fight and then he stabilizes. And he always has just enough resistance. MbL's not a player who undercuts army numbers. He's going up to 6 spearmen here in a second. He's also got the sneak scouts behind. So Dogao maybe is shifting his focus to just purely just holding this position so he can get to Castle Age faster. But it's okay for MbL not to have the berries. It's not that big a deal when you've got like 2 docks making fishing ships at the moment.
But you can see Dogao realizing, okay, there's not that many villagers in the town center. I can dive under this if I need to. MbL realizing that as well and deciding to build a tower on his gold.
It's kind of crazy that Dogao's scouts have just been pulled away. I mean, if MbL were to move out with his own scouts, he could kill those skirms right now. But, oh, Dogao's going in towards the gold, and, man, you're seeing how scrappy this game is right now. Obviously, a bit higher ping than some other sets you might see as well, because this is Brazil to Norway. But that's a good tower from MbL, and I guess he will complete it right before things get nasty here.
Yeah, you really see the ping here. Now that you mention it, I'm really recognizing it. Those scouts going back and forth. It really feels like Dogao was trying to micro them, out-micro the spear, out-micro the villagers, and there's some resistance. But even though Dogao really only has one villager kill at the moment, you can see in the resources collected how much of an advantage having a safe economy is versus economy that's constantly being harassed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, villagers fighting on the other side. That is a coin flip. We'll see who wins that. There is a galley on the way for MbL, but that won't be enough to kill the Vill right now anyways. And Dogao's on the way to Castle Age. Dogao is already relegated, but we've seen players before relegate others with them. Not that that can happen here, but Dogao's putting up a fight. He kills the Vill on that side. He will probably attempt to dock, and this is the problem with the preemptive tower. If you build a preemptive tower, smart players just know that they can place another tower in position, and wow, MbL actually on stone, and he'll build one of his own.
Both players sent their scouts over to that Vill fight a little bit late, and the galley does snipe the villager before it completes the dock.
That's funny.
But it's interesting that both players realized, okay, my scouts aren't very helpful in a tower fight at the moment, so I'm going to send them over to the one area where they could do some damage. But it does feel like Dogao has the momentum at the moment.
Dogao's never been a player to all in, right? It's always calculated aggression, and then he takes the slight edge. I mean, it's pretty much what the meta tends to be at the high level. That's what Dogao is. Now, these days, you might look at his gameplay compared to some of the players in the top 5, top 10, say it's maybe a little slower, but
right.
he's played amazing here. 30 seconds away from Castle. Even temporarily taking MbL off gold makes things difficult for MbL. MbL won't be able to afford upgrades easily, and MbL won't really be able to go for anything really offensive, right? Like, elephants will be tricky, crossbows, all the things that you would normally use to push out, just you can't afford right now.
Yeah, I'm expecting skirms and siege from MbL, and maybe just assuming that Dogao is going to go into cav, but no, second stable here for Dogao. And he realizes, okay, my opponent's just kind of penned in here.
Yep.
If I can just control all the areas of the map with a mobile unit like Knights, I'll be in a decent position, and MbL forced into another tower just to defend.
I love the stubbornness from Dogao with this tower as well. Repairing, bringing all of his army underneath it. Another tower for MbL. Panic stable for MbL. These villagers could all go down. MbL's tower could definitely go down. This is a problem. MbL does not have gold. And both players have those hills in front of their bases. We talked about it right away about how much of an issue it could be. But Dogao's just prioritized land so much more, and it's paying off for him.
Yeah, some of that comes down to the Civ, just Huns having a smoother transition. I was thinking MbL might go for some sort of militia pressure at the beginning there, but he decided to go for more of the water aspect. And he did get a nice advantage, but now he's feeling the pressure as all these skirmishers sniping all the units trying to take care of the cavalry. All the spears, all the villagers.
This is the most MbL-looking army ever, right? Like spears, skirms, random elephants, and scouts, right? But there's been no cohesiveness to it. There's been no flow. And Dogao, he hasn't finished MbL. MbL still is the eco lead. But it feels like if Dogao can use this moment and find another level, like bring in the siege or maybe add a second TC, that Dogao should be in an amazing spot.
Yeah, you would think siege would normally be the idea behind this, but when you already see your opponent has 2 towers, you're thinking, okay, first have to take out the towers, also have to deal with it being MbL.
Yeah.
The one thing about MbL's fish is he's also kind of running out. He misclicked the deep fish that's on the right side pond with some of his fishing ships, so you can really tell that the pressure is mounting on him.
Yeah, and there's ways that the aggression on land pays off on this map that you just don't easily realize. So that's a good example of it. Now, MbL is Malay. He's got the eco lead. He just needs to solve the gold problem. So I imagine his plan is to drop a castle to solve this gold problem, because he hasn't gone for siege yet. Or maybe if he gets enough elephants, he could actually just rush that tower down. It still is only one tower.
Yeah, that's true. Castles always kind of feel a little bit slow when you don't have the resources right away.
Yeah.
And since MbL is constantly having to place towers, repair towers, that stone count just not going up as quickly as you might want it to. Though a second TC is nice to help keep his economy lead. I'm expecting Dogao to go. He's going for monks, I guess, to heal all of his units.
But really good call. Heal, and then the elephants are the biggest problem. Right. So if you have 3 or 4 monks there, MbL can't really engage. It's not like MbL has elite skirm and bod can either. It's going to be tough for him to kill all those monks. So props to Dogao. Still has those same 4 villagers just chilling inside that tower. And Dogao seems to recognize, like, this is MbL's gold. If I hold this, he's completely out.
Yeah, like, where would MbL be able to drop a castle if he can? Maybe just behind his palisade wall, and at least he'd take out 1 tower. But that gold would still be, you know, a little bit risky to take it. Now the tower goes down for MbL. Pikes is in, but they're just getting micro down by the skirmishers with a wonderfully meaty meat shield in front with the knights.
A wonderfully meaty meat shield. Oh, man.
I was like, think of a descriptive word. Think of a descriptive word. Meaty.
Oh, that's all right. I like that one. There's the castle now from MbL. So clearly MbL realizes, I'm not going to have my ideal castle. I need a castle to keep me in the game, and Dogao will dive. Now, it's still kind of awkward for Dogao here because there are elephants, there are pikes, and the monks can't easily convert. But this is all so well calculated. Like, it's equally as awkward for MbL. There's a lot of villagers that aren't working for MbL. MbL isn't sure, is Dogao going to engage? Will the monks actually go for conversions? If they do, MbL needs to target the monks with the tower, which he's doing.
Yeah, he did that. And I think this fight started a little bit better for Dogao than it has finished.
Yeah.
He started by attacking the villagers with the skirms, but once MbL sent more villagers to finish the castle, I think you back up, save those knights. They're the mobile unit, and they can do a lot of damage with the units that MbL might be able to throw out on the map.
Oh, man, did he just force it a little too much there? I mean, he lost so many knights. He lost the majority of his monks. I didn't see him get many conversions. And now MbL, who stayed in this game, I mean, he's on 2 TCs. He's got the fish with Malay. He's adding fish traps on the right side. He's got gold. And I'm going to repeat the stakes because people are just now getting here. MbL needs to win 2-1 to go playoffs in this series today. Dogao already out. So, like, Dogao fighting for the $40 per win, which is still something. And obviously, you know, just the pride of it all. But MbL is under some pressure here, and he's held on somehow. I thought he was cooked. I don't know how he's still alive.
He doesn't see the castle on the TC's building. That is so juicy.
Yeah, that's...
He's going to see it in a second. He's like, oh, no. What am I up against?
Like, MbL really needs an outpost on the left side and to recognize he's got that gold over there. There's been so much fight through the middle, and there's golds there. I mean, it's not lovely, but the one next to the wood line could easily be a town center spot. But he just had never scouted that. Clearly just wasn't on his mind. He is going to TC one of the other golds now that I say that. And elephants, pikes, karambits now for MbL. They'll defend on the shoreline. And Dogao's wondering, what military can I make right now? Every time I make a unit, it's countered. I like cav archers as the choice.
Yeah, it feels like an AI army from both of these players.
Yeah.
I do like that Dogao did go for the second town center. He tried just going for the full control of MbL's golds, but I feel like it's a very hard situation to just win the game fully based off gold control.
Yeah. I also I know Dogao lost his monks earlier, but I like how he didn't try and get the relics when he was pushing. Now he'll lose a monk, but now's the time to get relics with your monks. And I love this dock. If he can complete this dock, a couple fire galleys into MbL's fishing eco, and those like pretty much infinite fish traps are going to be delayed. But will he get the dock up? MbL noticed that, and MbL actually denies it. Wow.
Yeah, very well done. I felt like MbL either saw the villagers as they were walking across as they went past the palisade, what's left of the palisade wall, or the fishing ship saw it in time. I'm not sure
I think-
exactly how that worked out.
If you look at the Fog of War, he has Town Watch with Malay docks. And so look at the dock on the left side for reference. I think maybe he could see some of that. Maybe not, though. Some of that vision is from fishing ships.
Yeah, I think it was the Palisade, because yeah, I know Malay docks have crazy line of sight.
Yeah, he saw the Vils
but-
run through the Palisade.
Yeah, I think it was the Vils.
That's
yeah.
really good awareness, though. If he didn't see the dock foundation and he knew to head over there.
And Dogao's going again.
Yeah, I mean, you should, right? You should.
Yeah.
And just one fire is enough to disrupt there. If MbL has to invest into 5, 6, 7 ships to defend the fish, even if MbL doesn't lose anything, that's a win for Dogao because MbL isn't investing onto the land. But
And on the left side, Dogao slowly picking away at these fishing ships with a few cav archers.
wow, MbL with the 300 IQ fish traps. If you place your fish traps inefficiently far from the dock, it can't get sniped by cav archers. I wonder, did he think
The new
about that?
meta.
I guess maybe he thought about that.
Yeah, I think you're giving a little bit too much credit to MbL.
Well, it's been a messy game, but MbL just refuses to die. He's at 101 eco against the 83 from Dogao. But what is MbL's land army? This is the continuous question. He had skirms earlier in the game. He lost most of them. Now he's dropping a second castle. But this is a problem for MbL. That's a lot of cav archers. And if I'm Dogao, I don't care about one tower. I'll just stay under here, kill whatever Vils I can. If he can see the other Vils, move in, get some kills, and then just run away. That's great damage.
Yeah, I think he has the perfect amount of investment into these cav archers. Didn't bother with the armor, just has ballistics. I don't think he has thumb ring yet.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, I mean, he's still booming now. I think there's a limit to where these cav archers can pressure. And I feel like Imp might be one of the next ideas on both these players' minds.
Yeah, now, I think Dogao wants a castle here. Like, he just placed an outpost between these two castles from MbL, and he's going to place a castle there. Now, MbL's imping, but he doesn't have the army to actually stop this, and Dogao's bringing a lot more Vils. Man, what an aggressive castle from Dogao.
The only thing I'm worried about is that this castle does not really deny... I mean, it denies some of the gold. That Mangonel is doing a lot of damage to those villagers that are on the gold. And
Yeah.
cav archers can range some of the gold, but I think MbL still holds with Trebs. I guess we'll see how much these cav archers can do.
Well, let's think about this, though. Like, MbL will be an imp, but he loses everywhere else. He's lost his fish on the right, and then he could potentially lose a TC. He's been pushed off of gold, so he's got to be selling, like, food that he doesn't really have. Like, it might be a situation where both these castles for Dogao get taken out, but his eco over the next 2 minutes is good enough for that to be okay.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's still getting pickoffs on the villagers. And
Yeah.
these elephants are not very much a solid unit going forward for the Malay.
They're no longer as meaty, one could say.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
They're going to
man.
be filled with arrows in a moment if they even survive much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty insane that MbL is able to go imp here. But he had to choose. Does he go skirms? Does he go, multiple ranges? Or does he go imp? And he chose imp. That will give him the benefit of Trebs. And I imagine the castles for Dogao will start to fall. But Dogao has to understand this will happen. And he has to prep himself for this. I think it may be intentional to have like 30 Vils on the forward gold. Because you know you're about to lose that. But back to what we said before, Colin, there's not a lot of space to run for Dogao. I'm looking to the back of his base. He doesn't have a lot back there. So he's got to almost expand to the west if he wants safe villagers.
Yeah, going back to giving MbL the benefit of the doubt, maybe those Karambits are just waiting around for villagers to leave their safety of their base. But yeah, the Karambits under Dogao's eco as well now.
Yeah, Dogao needs to react to that. I like that from MbL, but he's taken so many losses economically. He will maybe take 2 castles, but he's down to 83 eco. Dogao's cav archers have killed so much. MbL still doesn't have an easy response. And look at Dogao. He's just going to repair that castle. That castle will definitely go down at some point. But that castle has given him so much time. And with that time, he's hoping he can switch fully into knights.
Those repairs are going to make sure the TC for MbL goes down.
Yep. I guess MbL does have 3 TCs still, but the positioning of everything is just so awkward. And he'll drop another TC. What a game,
And
dude.
Dogao even found a way to get a dock on the left side as well. There was a galley in
Oh.
defense there, but I think the galley was going after cav archers harassing the fish, and a villager snuck in there.
Yeah, so it's really sick. So that's 5 more eco kills. And it's not really the type of game where you can pay attention to your pawns anymore if you're MbL. It's a full land game now. Again, pressure's on. He knows he needs to win this series. There's even additional pressure because Dogao is a player who's relegated. So in the back of your mind, you might just be like, I can't lose to Dogao. I should be beating him, right? But
Right. All of the other people in the group have been able to win their set against Dogao.
Yeah.
Or just about everyone. And so, yeah. The only issue for Dogao now is he's having to buy stone because he's so low. So does he keep repairing this castle? Maybe until he can get conscription?
maybe he wants a treb or two. I mean, Huns don't get bomber cannon, right? So if you don't have a castle, it could be extremely tough for you to push the fortifications from MbL. But I think he at least realized maybe that or he ran out of stone, but he just doesn't have enough to save it. He won't get those trebs out after all.
Oh, that's so close. 94% on that treb production. But yeah, I wonder what he's thinking as a switch. Maybe just control all the areas of the map to prevent MbL from leaving the safety of his castles.
If he can loop to the right, MbL's got a lot of eco over there. It's just not a natural place for Dogao to think about moving. But that's where most of MbL's safe eco is, actually, is that wood area.
Right.
But for now, he's on the left. And he sees MbL has skirms. He has 7 knights, and he dropped stables before. So I think his plan is to go, well, classic Hun style, right? Full CA, full knights. It's a good play, and MbL's eco just can't keep up right now.
Yeah, Dogao still has to watch out for these cav archers. MbL doesn't have that many armor techs in, actually has no armor techs in yet for his skirmishers, so not too much of a concern fighting them, but doesn't want to throw them unnecessarily underneath tower or town center fire.
Oh, man, Dogao correctly recognizes MbL doesn't have enough, and the knights will go for the trebs. These knights don't have many upgrades themselves, but that's 2 trebs down for MbL. That's so costly, and Dogao continues to just use the mobility of the Huns here and pick MbL apart.
Yeah, I think Cavalier plus last armor upgrade could win the game on its own. Not really seeing much military for MbL anymore. Only 1 pikeman, 11 karambits. It seems like karambits is the unit of choice for MbL now.
Yeah. I mean,
Along with the
MbL,
skirms.
it's such a tough position because on one hand, you need to stabilize because your eco's not great. But on the other hand, the longer you wait, the worse this gets for you. So he's almost in a position where he feels like he's got to be forcing it.
Yeah,
But-
Dogao can be patient.
Yeah, exactly. Dogao getting relic number 4, by the way. I mean, he's played amazing here. So well played. Well, I think odds are Dogao's going to take this first game. And if he does, MbL will be in a position where he has to win 2 straight, which, as a caster, I actually love. That adds more drama to the situation here.
Right.
But, you know, for MbL fans, that's not the shaky start you would have wanted here. You want to see MbL in the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought the storyline for today was going to be, could the results of this set impact whether Tato or ACCM make it into the playoffs?
Yeah.
But it's looking like even MbL's chances are... I mean, based off of past results between MbL and Dogao, where I think MbL has like a 75% to 80% win rate against Dogao, not looking too hot with the start here.
Yeah, and MbL taps out, calls the GG. Dogao relegated down to gold for the next season, but just like some others, they show up in week 4 and week 5. Maybe it's because there's no pressure anymore of having to survive, or maybe it's because they took that time to get up to tip-top shape. But I really liked how he approached this game. He correctly recognized that they were very close and he needed to be active through the middle of the map. That was the difference for me. I think MbL had some potential if he would have been able to find some comfort with the land fights, but I guess with the melee, typically you wall up, like we said, you fight for the fish, and when you're this close, maybe it just benefits the Huns to focus so heavily on land.
Yeah, getting the stable and archery range opening isn't something that we see all that often, but it definitely worked out there for Dogao, getting that pressure in quickly, recognizing that his opponent was investing maybe a little bit too much into water in the early game.
Also, how often do you see someone lose both their castles, their only castles, to Malay fast imp Trebs and still have that position be good for them. Normally, there's so many downsides. You're like, oh no, but this, but that. But Dogao just used that time to raid MbL's eco nonstop. He killed 80 eco this game. And MbL never really had a big army in combination with his Trebs because of it. Here we are. Armenians, Dravidians. This is MbL's home map, surprisingly. I really thought this would have been Dogao's. So MbL's clearly got a game plan. The map is Evacuation. This map is crazy difficult to play. So another game where there's a combination of water and land. And honestly, there's no secret sauce. There's no like one way to play this map. That's what's made it so fun. You can win through a variety of openings.
Yeah, absolutely my favorite map in the tournament. And that's why I don't even second guess when MbL picks this as a home map. I'm like, yeah, please. Let me see more Evacuation games. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I think if there's no one meta, too, and if it becomes very chaotic, those two things, I think that suits MbL a lot. Because MbL's not normally the player who's going to have a standard of openings as other people. So the fact that you can find damage in so many different ways and there's so many possibilities, whether that be going man-at-arms and going forward range or something on land, or going double dock on water and being pretty greedy. I think on that alone, it's good for MbL. Where I think it's a problem is if there was a meta, Armenians might set it with double dock galleys and then into archers. They're really good with that. And then having the mule carts is super helpful on this map too. It's almost like the mule cart was made for a map like this. So I think MbL's got to shake it up because Armenians are really good at what they do.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the mule cart when I was thinking Armenians. It's something that flies under the radar for me, and I just think Georgians mule cart, great economy. But Georgians get banned out so often that I don't get to see it that often.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and Armenians have, due to the nature of the openness and land here, you don't see a ton of feudal age navy. You will still see commitment to it, but you don't see a lot. And so if you have any civ that can do more with less, so Armenian galleys get the extra bolt, that helps. Or let's say Byzantine fires, they fire faster. Or Portuguese ships have more HP. All those bonuses, that feels so much stronger here. Because it's not like it's a numbers game long term. It's really about maximizing from 4 or 6 different units. So maybe getting a little bit too excited here. But it's a pretty hype series.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that I mentioned right at the start is that I don't think the heavy micro favors Dogao. That might have changed in recent years, that he's kind of caught up to the level of the other pros. But Dogao has always been more of a strategic pro rather than, a hamster, as some people would call them. People who are just pushing all the buttons, clicking all the buttons.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
the micro nerds.
The thing, I agree with you, but the thing I'll say about that is there are some players who are really fast and efficient, and you just can't tell how fast they are because they don't have a lot of like hyper-focused aspects of their play. So there are some really fast micro players. We covered Stone Please from Gold, right?
Right.
And so it was a great series for him. But then there are times you're like, holy crap, this guy's clearly very fast. And you look back at his eco, he's got 1 farm and 20 on wood, right? Dogao is super efficient with his clicks, and he's got that perfect ratio of macro-micro. So it's not evident, really, when you watch how fast he is. You might think that MbL is faster, but at least according to APM, they're pretty much around the same speed.
Yeah, I think it is that, just the micro aspect of being super quick to, out micro ballistics and click the units all over the place. I think that's what players... I mean, I'm also not playing against Dogao, so I'm not recognizing this firsthand. It's more secondhand feedback that the other pro players are mentioning.
Well, so the great cow wars have happened. Dogao somehow collected a few more cows on the outside. Bit of RNG involved in that, of course, but Dogao prioritized scouting that a lot. So he's got that extra food underneath his TC, can delay some farms. Dogao's scout, though, got hit by MbL, and MbL is going to chase him now. I was debating, when we were making this map, on adding elevation on the outside area. And what made me think about that is, technically, MbL could have chased Dogao's scout all the way back to the main island because there wasn't a single hill for Dogao to fall back to. What do you think about that? Just not a lot, But like little bits of elevation, is it needed? Could it spice it up?
I don't think the players would ever recognize that.
Yeah.
But what I do like about limiting elevation is how it makes it adds to the number of TC spots that you can build.
Oh, 100%.
Like on the modern Nomad gen, I think the elevation can often really cripple players when you can't build one of your early TCs.
Yeah.
Because there's hills in the way.
That's true.
So, and the few maps that I've scripted, I've really thought about elevation in terms of not in terms of scout fights or military battles, but just where you can drop buildings.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think also when you're trying to balance a fair map, adding even just one hill as MbL brings in this board, which is very nice. Adding just a couple hills here or there, that can really affect the balance of a map. If a player has a hill in front of a good TC spot, the opponent can take advantage of that. And while I think that's good, I was trying to find reasons for people to pick evacuation. I think there's a lot of reasons for them to ban it as is. It's so tough. So maybe we won't add hills to the outside.
I mean, I feel like that might be something. I don't know. Yeah, I never thought about it, but that's probably something that a player that's a little bit higher up would think about in their preparation.
Yeah.
You think about it on maps where the hill is very prominent, like Coast to Mountain, where you have the whole hill on the side of the map, or Kilimanjaro, where taking the middle is very beneficial, both because you have golds and stones there, and you have center control.
This MbL opening was stable, and he's just now scouted Dogao's opening. Now, this is pretty common. Players will wall to that shoreline to prevent units from coming through that way. So MbL is going to have to be creative with his scouts. The scout for Dogao now sees it will be scouts for MbL. And it's a fire galley on water for MbL. That may just be defensive. And it's going to be galleys for Dogao. Once he gets to 3 or 4 of them, if the micro can be perfect, he should be able to win the water. But that should. And that's if the micro is perfect. And it will not be if MbL is harassing on land as well.
Yeah, this is an interesting one-dock galley approach. You don't see too often. I definitely have some teammates in the past who may be in my chat who have adamantly said you need 2 docks for galleys because you need them to be doing pressure early.
Yeah.
Getting that fast pressure in.
Yeah,
but I think this might work still.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very long rush distance, but I think if you're going to go one dock, this is the way to do it. You wait till you have the numbers and then move out. You're definitely right. I think it all comes down to how much you need elsewhere, and certainly on this map, you need a lot more army attention and wood investment into the other areas. And so far, I'm just really liking Dogao's opening. MbL will probably face some problems on water against those galleys, wherever they are, and he hasn't been able to break Dogao's defenses yet.
Yeah, the navies are looping around opposite sides of the map. Galleys are going on the ocean side, and the fire galleys going on the bay side. And it looks like Dogao is going to follow up with a range to deal with all of these spears that, MbL constantly puts out.
Dogao sorry to interrupt here, but Dogao just had a misread. He was expecting MbL's army to loop to the other side, so his scouts are over there right now. Maybe he can wall this, but it feels like he really needs some army here. And oh my goodness, the quick wall's there from Dogao. Keeps the wall villager alive for now, but still a lot of work to do.
And the spears are there, and it's only one skirm, so it feels like the spears could take that fight and make sure those that villager is able to get those walls up. But might as well just wait for your scouts anyways.
Yep, on water, Dogao kills all 3 fishing ships from MbL. Wow, that could have been tough to do, right? He's got other things to still focus on. So he hasn't lost a villager yet. He snipes the fish from MbL. MbL's fire galley is now here, though, and Dogao notices that. Dogao is playing sharp. This is the best I've seen him play all season.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a little bit of AI army, where he's grouping all of his army together. But I think this villager stays alive, walled in there. Still, she's going to go right back to work. Wow, she's a very brave villager.
Yeah, walls will most likely complete. And fishing ships will most likely stay alive for Dogao. And things aren't necessarily bad for MbL. MbL's got clean eco. MbL's killing up a lot of the extra spearmen here, which I think is very valuable. But he hasn't broken Dogao yet.
I think Dogao's bought him enough time to get up. And I really like the addition that he did of adding a fire ship just to protect his his fish, because trying to micro a galley with all this other fight that's going on here can be very, very difficult.
I think Dogao overextended with some of those spears. Like, if he had pulled back those spears and he had them right now, this wouldn't be an issue. Also, Dogao doesn't have fletching yet. MbL does have fletching. Oh, man, but Dogao has just enough skirms. That's been the theme so far. It feels like he has just enough to defend. And so he'll push MbL
Just needs
away.
to get that last palisade down. I think MbL can out-micro this if Dogao gives him the time.
Yeah, palisades are
But,
down. Yeah. Fletching is definitely needed. MbL maybe could be getting a little discouraged right now, but look at those fires. You look away from the galleys for a second, dude, and they just go down. And now that's great for MbL. MbL can come kill those fish potentially.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Those galleys are short-lived. So I was thinking maybe a 2-dock opening, but even the 1-dock had its value here. Maybe that's very specific to this map. And fletching now coming in for Dogao, so he'll be able to defend, I think.
Yeah, so
I don't think MbL is going to try to sneak in.
I kind of like how MbL just keeps coming here. Like, it looked good for Dogao, obviously. You know, lots of respect for his defenses and whatnot, but MbL just keeps making scouts. And it might seem weird on paper to do that with the Dravidians, but scouts is kind of what you want in Feudal. The issue with their stable is no knights. So if you keep the game in Feudal, scouts feel fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing for MbL is he's already invested the stone into a tower on the mainland. So you might be thinking, I need to get some sort of pressure in here.
Yeah.
And knowing that I don't have a great stable. Oh, but he's through the house.
He's through. And there's a lot of weak vills there. And Dogao just has not had enough on land. And I don't think he was ever expecting the scouts. Obviously, he saw a couple of them. But usually players stop to save food to go Castle Age. And MbL, when he needs the wins massively, is going to get through, makes up for the fishing ship losses he had, is massacring all the skirms. I mean, this is going to get worse for Dogao. He's got nothing.
Yeah, Dogao has to stay there with the skirms if he wants to get some hits on that house, but it's really very few hits, and I think he really needs a tower here between the woodline and his gold if he wants to survive to Castle Age.
So good for MbL. MbL's got nice farms. I love the fact that MbL is actually mining stone so he can tower multiple areas. And now is probably when he can stop producing the scouts. And when you take a fight like that, you could maybe think about the Navy. Yeah, the fires are on the way back. So Dogao might... He lost the vills. His market's delayed, which he really needs right now because of his eco balance. And then he might also lose all of his fish.
And even this new market might get denied or delayed as well. Scouts find it now.
Sick.
I really think a tower was necessary there, but he was just thinking maybe spears was enough.
It's crazy, but those 3 spear that Dogao moved forward with, that he lost pretty much for free, were so needed to stabilize this game. If he had those spears, MbL would not have broken through, or at least not as easily. Dogao's market probably would have completed. Dogao could have clicked up to Castle Age already. It's just those spearmen were so essential, and you just make one mistake here on this map, and you're just going to be torn apart.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost Empire Wars-esque, where you have a lot of pressure coming in, obviously very much delayed here since we still have Dark Age. But yeah, the small little differences in an engagement in Feudal Age can determine the rest of the game.
Yeah. And now you see the patience from MbL. Now MbL's like, I got you right where I want you. I can out-boom you massively as long as this army remains an issue for you. And so it seems like the play's going to be skirms for him. That's what he's producing behind this, but still getting some good value from the fights.
Yeah, and MbL knows on the mainland he's completely safe. He can start building up his economy there, or even a secondary push on the mainland.
Yeah. I mean, MbL may want to go forward Siege Workshop, but I really think that let's say someone like Hera, someone like Leary, what they do in this position, they obviously upgrade their army that they have, but they drop a 2nd and a 3rd TC. These resources are just too good. A 2nd and a 3rd TC should give you such a big eco lead that as long as you don't take many losses on land, you're probably going to be massively ahead.
Yeah, and he's just going to make it so Dogao has to react to another spot. Just when Dogao has enough army to keep MbL out of his base, he's going to just poke other areas, other holes. At least Dogao won't be housed if he completes an entire house wall along the palisade wall.
Yep, Dogao. I think that Spearman actually poked the scout through the wall, which you can do on the diagonal. You can also build through a diagonal wall. It's kind of it's a known thing, I guess, but it doesn't always work either, so it's kind of not that common. But upgrades coming in for MbL. And yeah, this area is still an issue. Like, palisade walls are not protecting anything here.
No. Yeah, they give you some time to react to some situation. But yeah, they're not keeping armies out for an extended period of time. And yeah, the 2 extra TCs look perfect for MbL. He's managed to find an area between a wood line and a mineral resource for each of them. And what's the follow-up going to be for Dogao? He's thinking cavalry, monk, siege. I mean, he's just putting down every single building to try to help support him.
Yeah, and everything he can think of. I mean, it is an army of primarily skirms. The army's wandered pretty far here, so if Dogao could wall it in, you might think that the siege or knights could chase this down. But thing is, you need multiple knights, and you need multiple upgrades. And so bloodlines and scale barding is probably the minimum required. And then it takes a bit for the knights to get here, and now MbL can just move away. So,
and another panic fortified church on the gold. I will say that I think, here's my balance change suggestion. I know this isn't Reddit, but I'm going to throw it out anyways.
Yes, please.
Fortified churches should not be built as quickly as they're built.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they shouldn't fire arrows.
Oh, no,
or
no,
they shouldn't... Okay.
It's not that crazy of a balance change suggestion, as Dogao loses all of his villagers here.
I mean, it's also not as big an issue if they don't fire arrows, right?
Yeah, that too.
But, you know, I'm just, you know, I hate change sometimes, especially that particular change. And, dude, we're okay, I was going to say we're going to a game 3. We're obviously going to a game 3 because it's still a play all 3. But when we go to game 3, I think this is going to be 1-1 because MbL's just so far ahead right now. He's played a perfect game.
Yeah. I think we've seen that you still have to invest in land military. I mean, I think this army from MbL can still win the fight. I mean, I guess no. These 2 knights with bloodlines and chain barding armor will still be able to deal with these skirms.
This is where if you could make knights, you win the game in 2 minutes.
Right.
Because you use that eco to push back skirms. But you can't do that. So it's a bit trickier. But I like the approach from MbL to just go for crossbowmen now. Build the siege workshop.
Yeah, he's trying to delay the knights and the skirms on the right side by attacking them. He knows that he might not win this fight, but the longer the knights are distracted from his economy, he's in a good position. And then the follow-up siege just to defend his starting base is solid.
Yeah, I mean, this army is setting up the rest so nicely. And like we said, 2 knights, not enough. And this is important, guys, for anyone who's ever like, why doesn't someone go for this unit? It takes resources to tech switch, and then sometimes if you're not maxed out on the tech switch, with good micro, people are still going to be able to handle that counter unit. Knights.
Yeah, exactly. You can see MbL dodging right and left, and Dogao is trying to fix his economy, and he just can't handle this fight at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only way MbL could really lose this game, in my opinion, is if he were to blunder massively, and I think we're about to see a big move. This could win the game, or maybe if Dogao has something prepared, it could lose the game. It's going to be a forward castle for MbL, but there's nothing for Dogao. There's a priest there walking through the middle.
I was worried for a second. He only had 4 villagers forward, but I do see more coming forward behind. And yeah, especially with the cracked terrain, all of these buildings for Dogao will go down very, very quickly once that castle is up. And one warrior priest isn't going to do the trick.
Like, Dogao's been building up an army to kill the other army, and now he sees all these crossbows. He's probably like, what? You have that as well? Like, how are you even doing that? And GG.
And yeah, it doesn't even need the castle to complete. Well played, MbL.
What a great game. So, again, Dogao already relegated. We know that. The next game determines if MbL is a playoff player or not. It is either 4th place for MbL or 2nd place. There's no other potentials. And obviously, that then does also affect other players in the group. I think Vinchester's the one that really does not want MbL to get this next win. We are in game number 3, and Dogao does indeed play the Cumans. Now, I've seen this twice. I saw ACCM do it once, which was obviously this group. I think it was the first week, and it looked really strong. It was difficult, though. It was really difficult, but in true ACCM fashion, he wasn't killed. The 2TC boom paid off, and he won with kip checks. And then I saw Margugu try it, and when Margugu tried it, I was thinking, why would anyone try it on this map? Now, that's not because, you know, Margugu didn't play it well. It's just because the opponent realized Yeah, this map's super open. So I'm quite surprised, honestly, that Dogao's going to try this, Colin. It should probably be 2 town center boom. That's the play. We got Camel Archers has the potential for MbL, but I think the big reason you probably pick the Berbers is for the cheap Knights. So it's probably Knight Siege that's on MbL's mind, but you can't just go Fast Castle straight up here because the Cumans can always play Standard as well. And Colin, I don't know. I might have lost you. It felt like you started to say something, and then you didn't. Well, he says apps all crashed. Okay, well, I'm going to stay in the call, and we will see if Colin can come back here. There's no better time for it to crash than now, honestly. It's just Dark Age. But yeah, I just want to talk through it. If you were to go Fast Castle here, there's still potential that the Cuman player could always go for some Feudal Age play. I think there's some pretty crazy builds where you can go Archer Spear into the second TC, so you don't completely neglect that. And that could easily punish MbL. But your typical play would be, like, the best way, if you know the Cumans are going to go 2 TCs here, you go Fast Castle Knights, Forward Villager, Siege Workshop, and aim to flatten those TCs. Yeah, it's not Dave muted anymore. It's Colin muted. Yeah. I like how everyone's saying Dave is muted. I have faith that Colin will return back into the call. I will keep tabs on it, though, guys. But thank you, everybody, very much for the support so far. Floripa, big Dogao fan, was super hyped about it. Thank you, C-Money, Strawberry Laylee, Dingles. What's up? You're welcome for the content. Here comes the Vil for Dogao to Doc. And that Vil could have been that Vil could have been sniped. MbL a little too early there. Dogao hasn't even brought protection for that. That's crazy. That villager could have easily been sniped by the scout. And he just kind of gets away with it. And MbL might just be assuming he's not docking now. 1890, I think the co-caster is muted. Maybe you should unmute him. Very helpful. Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm going to keep Discord up on the other screen. And that way I know if Colin is going to return. Wait, Colin just said something. He said, T90, your chat's stupid humor has turned me off from this. I'm sorry, it was a great time, but I just can't deal with this anymore. Oh, chat, what did you do? What did you do? You scared him away. Wow. I'm kidding. He didn't say that, but he probably thought it. Yeah, way to go, chat. That's horrible. So where would Dogao build this TC? Certainly not on the golds, because there's no wood around it and there's a hill. That's a rough spot to be at. So again, there's a risk associated with this. You could maybe cram a TC back here. I see deer, I see wood, I see gold. All good options. But it's still a relatively open map. And you still will have a lot of the map potentially locked down. MbL going to click up here. He's going to gold. So I think MbL definitely wants to contest on water somewhat. Or is this a fast castle? I don't think it is. He just got loom. But guys, huge game here. $40 is $40. Pfft, whatever, right? But MbL wins. He goes second place. He goes to the playoffs to play this upcoming week. And then he loses. Still back in platinum, but will not even have a chance. We won't see him anymore this season. Colin just said his apps all crashed, so I guess his computer is rioting against him here. Maybe a Windows update's ruining stuff for him as well. Big walls for Dogao. And we've got wood lines galore in the back. If you think about at least 150 wood per tree. Floating spaces, will the playoffs be live or pre-recorded like this? Well, so as I've said many times before, this is actually one of the most annoying things people ask, but I get that why you maybe have an interest in it. Doesn't matter if it's recorded games or live. You've never seen them before. You don't even know. And as a point of you not even knowing, these are actually live and not recorded. Obviously, you might have a slight inkling if there's like less break time in between, but these are live games. And we'll be doing our best with player schedules to have as much as we can live, of course. Yeah, actually, these were played 3 years ago. We're actually on Titans League 11, but we're only broadcasting Titans League Season 4 right now. So it's been a very successful project. I can't wait for you guys to see. Man, Season 8 has a pretty incredible story, so stick around. Man, I mean, this is so extreme from Dogao. I kind of like it, though. If you're going to commit to this, you got to commit, right? And so, full wall is the plan. TC's in the back corner. MbL added the stable to go for scouts, but he probably has an understanding this is going to be a greedy play from Dogao. Now, Dogao has to complete the walls before scouts get in here. And on water, Dogao is actually making 2 fire galleys. Does Dogao have loom as well? He does. So fishing ships are tanking for both. MbL's not actively mining gold. He's making a demo. Oh, this demo has to hit, actually. MbL using this demo too early would be tragic. It would be absolutely tragic. Yeah, okay, so that MbL's like, that's amazing for me. I'm feeling great. But the fire galley could hop out here for Dogao and snipe that and then kill all the fish. He does have another fire galley on the way. Okay, so maybe it's not as tragic as I thought. I exaggerated. And house walls are completed for Dogao. So those 2 TCs are flying. There's 18,000 llamas underneath the TC. There's deer in the back. And now MbL sees the TC. That's at least important. That doesn't help you right now. But at least knowing that TC is rangeable by siege is good. And then also knowing there's gold back there. Dogao, I think, will be very happy with this start. He lost his fish, of course. But he's at least contested the water a bit. Forced MbL to stay deeper into feudal age, which is what you'd like. Snipes another fishing ship. And now I don't think he'll produce another fire for a little while. So MbL able to see there's gold back here. Able to see there's stone back here. And he can still use this scout to get some knowledge on what's going on. But he's in feudal. Will MbL regret going for scouts? Maybe he thought what I thought, that it's just too difficult to fully wall the map. Which civilization's better in late game? I actually think late game's relatively close. A lot of people are going to say Berbers because of camel archers, and camel archers are insane. So I would lean towards Berbers. But I think having siege rams, having fast-producing Hussar, and having Halb, and getting crop rotation, I think all those things are actually really good for the Cumin. So it does kind of depend what type of game it is. So not trying to pull the it depends thing, but it does kind of depend. Stable now from Dogao. Dogao knows MbL is going to go low army now up to Castle Age. And at the very least, I think Dogao needs to stop the forward villager. I'm not loving MbL's current position. I know his resources collected is good. I know he'll click up to Castle Age, but with how Dogao is about to play this, MbL doesn't know there's going to be scouts coming. And MbL may also potentially lose out on water. I'm just saying MbL could lose a couple vills. Vill count's climbing massively for Dogao. He's already got a 10 villager lead. So humans either looks OP or they just look horrible. Actually, you know, Dogao doesn't have that many farms. I kept looking at the amount on food, and a lot of that was still the llamas and the deer. Well, obviously he'll add more farms. But MbL's up. Spearman comes in here from Dogao to get some pokes. That's frustrating for MbL. He'll have to make another ship. And still no response from Colin, guys. So, I think we might... Maybe we've lost him. I don't know. That's a bummer. I was having fun, man. Salutes to Colin while you have the chance here. Obviously, I know he's probably really annoyed. I've been there. But he's done a good job. And, okay, he says he's back. He says he's back. Okay, right after we compliment him, he's back. Let's give this a shot real quick. Testing.
All right, I'm back.
Nice. Cool, cool. Who are we blaming for this? The internet? Do we need to call out the ISP? Is it the PC?
I think it's PC related. First time in a long time I I'm using a pre-built PC here in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And so I didn't have full control over all the parts of the PC. So
All right. All
still
good.
need to figure out some bugs.
All good. All good. Sometimes the PC pathing can be a bit weird, you know?
Exactly.
So I already broke down kind of the early stuff, but actively where we're at, MbL needs to punish this. MbL is 20 eco behind, but critically, he was able to scout where the second TC is, and he's going to push that. I really like this decision from MbL. Dogao doesn't have the army right now to compete, and Dogao will have to pull the lumberjacks away, some farmers away, the gold miners away, and honestly, MbL could just be through the palisades too.
Yeah, really interesting position. I'm still catching up, but really interesting position for the second TC. Wood can be a little bit of a struggle on the map, so you might think he's going to build the TC in the middle, where there's a lot of wood, but it's a little bit more safe there in the back.
Oh, man, look at Dogao's awareness, though. He thinks, where am I most vulnerable? Where would he push me? And he brings that human scout, which is a little bit faster, so you can get away with it as well. Sees the siege workshop, but there's no stone income for Dogao, so he can't build a tower here. And now he backs away just kind of the last seconds here. Could have easily lost those vills. Just loses one. And MbL's knocking on the door. Oh, man. I thought that this boom was going to be so good for Dogao, but it's crazy how quickly things can turn around. MbL will drop the second TC. And MbL is going to be through these palisades. And Dogao has a lot of eco to protect.
You would
go ahead.
You would think sometimes with Cumans you collect stone a little bit earlier, just in case you need those extra towers in defense. But at the same time, you know, you're kind of strapped for resources at the beginning while you're trying to 2TC boom, so you don't necessarily have those extra villagers you can send to stone.
Oh man, MbL needs this win. If he gets this win, he goes to playoffs. Dogao is really struggling to keep an eye on everything. He's lost 10 eco now. There's also scouts hitting the wood line. That will lead to a couple more villager picks. And so now it's 43 vills for MbL. It's 49 for Dogao. And Dogao is to make camels into Berbers here. The Berbers have the cheaper camels. So he has to fight this. It won't be easy. And MbL's position looking like he prefers it, honestly.
Right. Yeah. How many stables does Dogao have at the moment to try to catch up with
Dogao's got
numbers?
3.
Okay.
Dogao's got 3, and obviously he's not going to add another TC here, so he should be able to match the numbers. And if he matches the numbers with a conversion or two, he can also take the siege. So this could turn around pretty quickly.
So yeah, MbL has to be thinking, I need to do some damage so I can catch up in Vill count once I boom off behind this, because the chance of him continuing this push when he's up against full cavalry could be a bit difficult.
Nice shot there from Dogao. He moved the monk multiple times. He should get a conversion as well. He does get a conversion. Now, MbL still took pretty good engagements against those camels initially. He was getting lots of hits, but Dogao holds. It's 61 pop for Dogao. MbL just kind of running away into the corner now. 2 TCs for both, or excuse me, 3 TCs now for MbL, so I guess he has the lead there. But Dogao's not finished yet.
And one thing to mention with this military composition going into the late game is that Cumans do not get heavy camel. So Dogao needs to do something to change up the composition.
Yeah.
Could be going to stone and getting some Kipchaks. You probably want still a mobile unit, so that's why I thought Kipchaks, but it's still a lot of micro against those camels.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. I think if you're going to go Kipchak, you almost needed to be on stone before, right? Maybe have like 300 or 400 in the bank, and then you can use the market to buy the castle and make the switch. I think if you're not on stone now, you can't do that. And I think Pikeman, Camel feels reasonable, but how easy is Pikeman to move across the map here when you're pretty far apart? It's not so easy.
I love that Dogao found that extra gold on the right side there.
Oh.
His scouting is not too bad, and being able to find those extra resources that are not being attacked, having some vestige of safe economy is quite nice.
So I have a somewhat off-topic question. You live in the Netherlands now. How long have you lived there?
I've been here for 6 months, or just over 6 months. My girlfriend got a job at a university here.
Okay, so is everyone just like stupid tall there?
Yes. I like to say that because they're under sea level, they're kind of like periscopes, what you have in a submarine. So they have to grow up until they're above sea level.
That's funny, dude. Yeah, because in my experience, anytime I meet someone from the Netherlands, they're very, very, very tall.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all riding bikes, so they're all like taller than people walking around. So it can be intimidating for sure.
Okay,
But
got it.
we've grown to appreciate it.
Well, 3 TCs here for MbL. Still not on stone. It feels like the time, well, now we will, but yeah, it feels like the time to maybe think about camel archers, because this is now reaching that point. Even though Berbers are better in the camel war, you don't want to overmake camels against a civ that eventually gets halb. So I like that.
Right.
But Dogao getting the relics, and Dogao also on 3 TCs. This is going to go late, dude.
Do you remember on Cross, we mentioned MbL's fish traps and how he might just be building the fish traps further out to avoid attack?
Yep.
I'm thinking, given his fish traps in this match, that might actually be the case. I mean,
Yeah.
on this one, we actually have shallows, so they would be in range of military. But it's kind of interesting. It's clever.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, the other one, I guess it's more uncommon on Cross because you don't have the amphibious terrain where land units can snipe it. But it almost felt like he calculated it so cav archers couldn't snipe them. But just 4 on stone for MbL and not really moving out. I mean, he's probably thinking, my civilization is better. I need this win. Let's not throw. Like, let's not overextend. Let's take it easy. But that's also somewhat debatable, I think. And here's the camels for Dogao. I do think the humans actually can compete in the late game if they can get onto all their trash units. Because Berbers not having halb can become a problem.
Yeah, I'm wondering if MbL's counting on Dogao not to have the time to transition to other units.
100%.
Now, I mean, Pike and Halb isn't, the hardest transition out of all the units out there. But maybe he's thinking, this is just going to stay camels, as both camel armies kind of get trapped there in the forest.
Yeah, it's a shame MbL canceled that demo. He might have been able to land it there. MbL's defensive play might be something he regrets right now because he's getting raided a little bit on the left. A bit of initiative here for Dogao. Both players going for conversions. The pathing's honestly just not fun through these wood lines for either player. And more camels coming from MbL. In the end, they both get conversions. And MbL actually keeps his monks alive. So that's actually much better for MbL.
Yeah, and he can heal up all of his units behind this as well from the little scrapes and pokes that they scimitars.
MbL really needs Town Watch, and he really needs some outposts right now. Look how dark the left side of his base is. Like, that is not a position that you can react to very quickly. And Dogao's coming in with so many camels. We do see the pike switch behind this. But Dogao...
Yeah, he's recognizing that there's nothing here in terms of transition for MbL.
Yeah, especially if you take MbL off stone, Dogao should recognize that takes him further away from Camel Archer, which could hurt the pikes.
Dogao trying to take that fight on the corner of the hill. Talking about hills again. But yeah, with monks behind and those camels just being able to heal up behind, it's kind of difficult.
Wow. So Dogao has to fall back. I think him losing those monks earlier kind of hurts. You don't have as many monks to fall back to, potentially. Some great engagements for MbL. This is exactly what he needs. He's even getting... He just completed iron casting. So he's got full attack upgrades in his camels. And now MbL will see the barracks. So this is why it's like, you make too many camels, and then you're going into pikes. Things could get really awkward for MbL.
Yeah, he must have just felt so confident thinking, I'm Berbers, my camels are cheaper, I can just spam them. If my opponent keeps trying to come forward, I'm going to win all these fights.
Yeah, it could be interesting, though. Maybe he jumps on this now before the pikeman numbers get out of hand. He does have the extra attack. The pikes aren't in the highest of numbers, and MbL also has the monks here, so MbL has just shifted a bunch of vills to stone behind, but he is actually going to fight this. I think MbL can win this fight.
And that TC's trying to go up as well.
Yeah,
I don't think that TC completes. Or maybe it does with that one villager that's protected on the backside.
You gotta remember, camels don't do a ton of damage against pikes. They don't do a ton of damage against vills. It's still something. And MbL is just gonna strictly win this position with camels. That is the main goal from Dogao. Dogao couldn't take that with his boom earlier. And MbL, when the wins are needed, is in an amazing position now. 150 population. Dogao now down to 100. If MbL can close this out, he's going playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't know what Dogao does here. He has enough stone for a castle. It almost feels like he needed a castle there by his barracks to be able to secure that position until he had enough pikemen out. But now the pikes just get converted instantly, and Dogao taps out.
Wow. So MbL does it. MbL will go second place. He's confirmed to be in the playoffs. We'll see more from him. Great series from Dogao, honestly. I obviously would have been rather disappointed in how the whole season panned out because he will be relegated now. But I think we saw a better version of Dogao today. I'm fairly confident that even if the gold groups are really competitive, Dogao will be near the top next season. But well played from MbL. I mean, he lost the first game. Things looked kind of shaky at times at the start of an evac. I wasn't 100% certain on how that would go, but it was just consistency. He was super consistent with the aggression in evac. And then in this game, it felt like the opening to Castle Age was amazing, dude. He killed 10 vills. And then he just shifted everything into the boom behind.
Yeah, I don't know. MbL in the first game on Cross, it almost felt like he wasn't familiar with the map change that you mentioned. And that was the only thing that kind of threw him off his game a little bit. But once he knows the map and he knows what position he is in, he can execute as well as every other top player out there.
I also think just nerves. Like it's a very real thing for all these guys, and maybe especially MbL. He had more on the line today. I think maybe game one was also slightly more defensive, slightly less scouting because of just nerves. So props to MbL. Now, we have another series in this group. That'll be the conclusion of the day. But assuming I can load the data here on the probability site, I want to just reconfirm what that means for ACCM Tato's set, but also what that means for Vinchester now. Because MbL got the job done. This is all he needed. And MbL is locked to second place. Whoever wins Tato and ACCM will be first in the group and go immediately to the quarters. And then Vinchester is likely out of the playoffs unless Tato or ACCM gets swept. That's what I think I'm seeing here. Now, I'm going to double check this because maybe it's possible that Vinch can win on tiebreak against one of them, but I think he lost to them. I'm going to look. I'm going to do Tato 2-1. What happens to Vinch? Okay, Vinch is fourth. ACCM 2-1. What happens to Vinch? Vinch is fourth. Yeah. So basically, MbL second. Winner of Tato ACCM goes first. And then if the loser in Tato ACCM gets swept, they fall out of the playoffs as well. So crazy group.